Welcome to I Hate It Here, the podcast for HR and people professionals, making the hardest job in the world just a little bit easier. I'm Hebba Youssef.
When you first start in a company or you first start your career, your ambition is unbridled. It is wild. Your ambition is unbridled, and it is something that you have to learn how to manage over the course of your career.
Yeah.
And harnessing your ambition, harnessing your focus, and making sure that that aligns to not only what you want to do and accomplish, but also who you are ethically.
Let's be honest, HR doesn't have a data problem. It has a what do we actually do with this problem? Quantum Workplace helps leaders unlock talent insights that are often siloed, connecting engagement, performance, and development into a single clear view of your workforce. Because clarity leads to better decisions and better teams. Visit quantumworkplace.com to learn more.
Welcome back to another episode of your favorite and culturally relevant podcast. I'm Hebba, your host and resident hater, and here to talk about all the things that annoy me about modern workplaces and how we can change them. This season's focus has been new rules, new power dynamics, new ways of working, new leadership, all ideas around new. And something that is new is my favorite show, Industry, is back for a fourth season. And I really want to talk about this show because it's not really a show about finance, although I do find myself Googling what is a short at least once a season. It's a show about work, ambition without guardrails, power without accountability, and what happens when your job becomes your entire identity way too early. It really is honestly an interesting watch from an HR perspective. Prepare to be appalled. It is an HBO show, so there is nudity, there is cursing, there is drug use, but just something to think about. Industry feels uncomfortably familiar because it captures the reality that a lot of us are living, where we see this like pressure to perform at work, this worship of productivity, and all these institutions that we know cause harm, but disguise it by calling it growth. So today we're talking about Industry as a commentary on modern work. You don't have to be an avid watcher, but we want to talk about what it gets right, what it exaggerates, and what it reveals around power and ambition and how they show up at work. And to do that, I had to bring back fellow industry lover and good friend, Dave Garcia. Both me and Dave love industry and have a lot to say about the topics at hand. Dave, welcome.
Thank you for having me back.
That was so corny. We have discovered that we are on episode 7 together. How does that make you feel, Dave?
I feel like I should start collecting royalties. I think once you hit 10 episodes, you go to syndication and you start collecting royalties.
I mean, there was that unreleased episode though. So we did one time. Dave and I recorded a whole episode and decided we shouldn't release it. It just was not good. So Dave,
if I was a SAG member, I would still get paid for that too. just for the record.
Okay.
I'm really excited I'm really excited for this one. It's different than what we've done before. I feel like we were both early on the industry train.
Yes.
It's like it's an indie band that we really liked and bonded over, and then it blew up.
Yes. And to watch people tweet about how they have been day ones, and I'm in the HBO tweet threads being like, I'm a day one. I was watching this from the very beginning. It's the best show I've ever watched. I don't know why I think this. Were you the one who told me to watch it? Or did I ask you if you had watched it? I can't even remember. It's been so long.
I think we just asked each other if we had seen it.
Yeah.
And then we both said it's our favorite show.
Yeah.
And freaked out.
Yeah.
And then we watched season 2 and season 3 together.
Yes. And I still had to Google what is a short. It's now a long-running joke with my college friend who actually worked on the trading floor, where at least once an industry season, I'm like, what's a short again? And then he's like, I've explained this to you so many times. And I'm like, I know, I'm just ha ha ha. Now it's a funny joke. And he's like, what are you watching? And I'm like, a show about finance, but not finance. Right? It's like finance adjacent, but I did ask him about some of the plot lines, like what it was like to be on the trading floor. Is this overly exaggerated? And he was like, some of that sounds, like experiences I had. And the two writers of the show, didn't they used to work in finance? And that's how they got the inspiration to write the show.
They did. Yeah. It's part of their origin story. And I think that's why the show has a depth of realism, even though it's sensationalized and dramatized, because they really understand the environment that they're writing about.
It's so good. Okay, before we get into it, because I have so many questions for you, I've been asking everyone this season, what's one new thing you want to learn this year? What a short is? I'm kidding. I know what a short is.
So I don't think I've told you this. I might be telling you this for the first time on the pod.
Oh, shit.
We're expecting.
Oh my God, yay, baby too.
And so I would like to learn how to manage 2 children at once without losing my mind. I think it's something that's going to happen in the very near future. And so that's really what's on my mind. You really can't plan anything else when you have a child on the way.
Oh my God, that's so exciting. And I'm so happy you decided to tell me on the pod where you could see my live reaction, and because I feel like I'm about to cry. Remy will get an older brother or sister. When will we know?
Younger.
Oh yeah, I don't know why I said older. You already have a child.
Younger sister.
Girl dad. How fun for you, Dave.
Always. Yeah, it's so much fun.
Wait, that's good. Do you have names picked out yet? Don't tell me. I want to be surprised.
You will be surprised. We have a similar list to what we did the first time. We like, androgynous names.
Yeah.
So Remy is a French boy's name, but I have a daughter. So
I love that. Whatever. I love when people are picking names. Like, I wanted my best friend to tell me the name she was picking for her child. And she's like, I'm not telling you. And I was like, but don't you think I should get like a vote? And she's like, no, it's not your child. Like, no, you don't get a vote. But I was like, I'm your best friend. Like, can I cast a ballot? And she was like, absolutely not. So I'm excited to see, when is this happening? When is this new life joining
July.
us? Ooh, a Leo. I think that's when Leo is. I love that I'm now.
I don't know. I have no idea.
I think that's Leo season. We'll see. July's a good time. A summer baby. Ooh, how exciting. Okay, you're going to do such a great job. You are already a great dad. And I feel like every parent I talk to is just like, you figure it out. I have no advice. You figure it out.
I think when you have kids, you finally realize we're all just winging it. And so
how I feel about work some days. I'm like, here we are.
We're all just winging it.
We're all just winging it. Well, on the note of work, moving us back to talking about industry, the show is a finance. It's like a fictionalized finance show, which, by the way, I really have had to Google a lot of things, but they don't tend to use a lot of actual finance jargon. Like, it's not that type of show. But when you strip away all of that, or even like the fact that they're on a trading floor, what do you think the show is actually saying about work? And why are we talking about it today?
Foundationally, I think industry is culturally relevant to the moment, right? Like, it feels of the zeitgeist in a way other shows don't. And to me, it's because it is a commentary on identity, power, capitalism, how your self-esteem, worth, economic and societal value is wrapped up in that, and how wrapped up it is in you being what we'll call a productive asset. And when you look at it through the context of work and the work experience that folks are having on the show, I think it underscores how the institutions in our lives have historically or are currently failing to understand their role. Institutions always prioritize the value exchange. And this is something we've talked about on previous pods, but there's an effective value exchange between employees and their employer. Institutions always prioritize the value exchange, whereas employees may prioritize other things like self-esteem, worth, friendship, personal growth. And so by sensationalizing and or dramatizing events, I think it highlights how we've become somewhat desensitized and tolerant to workplace culture, workplace behavior, inappropriate workplace behavior. And I'm not talking about the sex and drug use. So if you think about season 1 and Harry's death due to overwork, or Yasmin getting hazed, Eric pressuring Harper to kind of push it to the extreme, these are all very much inappropriate workplace behaviors. And in the industry specifically, they utilize this veil of accountability to threaten and harass employees. And so that to me is absolutely not reflective of 90% of workplaces, right? But there are aspects of each individual component that I think can exist or permeate throughout an organization. And so to me, industry says we've started to accept this, and by furthering how extreme, furthering and dramatizing it, I think they do underscore how tolerant we've become.
Yeah.
I had a supervisor once say to me, if you're not uncomfortable, you're not pushing it. And this is kind of the ethos of industry, right? If you're not uncomfortable, you're really not working hard. With that said, I will say there's also a very American idea in the show of trying to make it.
Yeah.
That's ingrained in certain characters, whether that's Eric and Harper, who are American, or somebody like Robert, who is of a lower class, trying to make it.
Yeah.
And there's also this underlying motivation to do your own thing, hang your own shingle, be an entrepreneur, and get out of the institution. So there is a very American idea, despite it being a British show and written by British authors, which I'm not sure is intended to be positive, but as an American, I take it as a positive.
Yeah. I wonder how the rest of the world, so I only know American people that watch this show, but I wonder if like people in Europe are like, we're not like that about work. Because, there's like that big divide between we in America like are obsessed with our work and our identities and they're so intertwined and the rest of the world isn't. But I think the thing that they're in the finance industry, I think in the finance industry, this behavior is very prevalent versus other industries. What do you think?
The short answer is yes, and we are super fans, so we're going to reference some of our online behavior that may be questionable. But on the industry subreddit, somebody put out a couple of weeks ago that Eric reminds them specifically of their American manager, and they're not American. And they talked about how Eric's behavior, his language, his relationship with work is a very American experience, and how they themselves, as a European, do not understand it. And it is very much reflective of what they experience at work with their international counterparts.
It's so interesting because Eric, I rewatched all 3 seasons before the 4th one came out. I'm not going to tell you in how long because I was just like on a binge. I watched like 3 episodes in a row every day. But Eric isn't even Harper's manager at the beginning. He's her step manager. What is that line? What is the word I'm thinking of? He manages somebody who manages her. And I thought it was so interesting because I'm like, he's not even her direct manager.
He's her skip level.
That's the word. Why did I forget that word? He's her skip level manager. But their relationship in the show is more manager direct report than anything else. She like seeks his approval. She like takes his direction. She doesn't do what her manager tells her to do, to opt for what he tells her to do. And it's a really interesting contention point in season 1 that I was like, this feels so real. How often have any of us had a skip level manager come to us and say, I really want this thing, or I want this thing done. And you're like, well, I guess I have to. That's my skip level manager. And so like watching that play out in season 1, I was like, this is such a real dynamic. And it's not even like a main focal point. Like I think they mentioned once that he's her skip level early in the first season. And it's like not really mentioned again. And I was like, that to me, I spent hours just like thinking about that, probably really sad. And I also just thought their relationship is so fascinating to me. I could probably do 6 episodes on Eric and Harper's relationship. Harper's like our main character in the show. She's a Black woman. She did not graduate college and gets into finance. And Eric finds out very early on that she did not graduate college. I'm not spoiling anything. This is like episode 1. And it's really interesting watching their power dynamic and the power struggle after that. Because it's clear she feels like she owes him something and he feels like he has something over her. And watching their dynamic play out, Dave, I have something interesting to tell you. I don't know if I've ever told you this. I have had and Eric relationship where like that was my manager. Like I worked for someone very similar to Eric in a lot of ways. And I idealized this person, like truly thought they were like the best thing ever. I wanted to be just like them. And while watching back Industry, I feel like I have unpacked a lot of that behaviors can actually be really harmful as you are experiencing and like reflecting back on my time on like working with this person. I was like, wow, like some of it great, taught me a lot, some of it not so great. And it's been like fascinating watching Eric and Harper's relationship. I've never told you this because I just get so triggered sometimes by watching how they interact with each other.
It's so interesting you say this because I think when you are earlier in your career, you define success by the people around you and you model behaviors that you see because you believe that those behaviors are what yielded that person's success.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah.
And when you first start in a company or you first start your career, your ambition is unbridled. It is wild. Your ambition is unbridled, and it is something that you have to learn how to manage over the course of your career.
Yeah.
And harnessing your ambition, harnessing your focus, and making sure that that aligns to not only what you want to do and accomplish, but also who you are ethically is very challenging. And so for you to have experienced that is not uncommon, where there's somebody that you idolize at work that at first it seems and it feels like if I listen and I do what this person is telling me to do, I will make it.
Yeah.
And over time, you realize that you may not make it. Mm-hmm. And that person, based on their behavior, probably has an upper limit to where they can go in the organization. And I think you see that play out with Eric, right? Yeah. When you talk about power and you talk about how influential he ultimately is, part of that is because you can only get so far with that behavior.
Yeah.
And there's different levels. You can get to the second, third, highest level. You can get to the highest level in a particular organization, but that doesn't mean it's transferable to another. And so I think that your experience is very reflective of a earlier career employee getting, finding themselves under the wing of a supervisor and feeling like this is my chance. This is my angle. This is how I make it by following this person.
Yeah. It is, oh God, I need to go to therapy after watching the show, honestly, because I'm like, it's so different. So I was very early in my career. I didn't know what leadership was other than what was modeled to me. I had never even asked myself the question, what kind of leader do I want to be? Is this the person I'm emulating so much? Is this who I want to be? And I didn't ask myself that question until years later. And I was like, no, I don't want to be that person. And I thought, just like you said, if I acted like them and approached things like them and thought like them, then someday I would have the same title as them. And when you realize that that's not how it works, it kind of really breaks your trust in idolizing anyone. Like, I don't think I have any idols right now. I have people I admire and I have people that I think I could learn from, but that early career, I idolize this person and they're put on a pedestal for me. I don't really think I've done that since I was in my early to mid 20s.
Where, if you don't mind me asking without revealing anything about the person in the company,
yeah.
Where did they cap out career wise, like on the ladder? And not to say the ladder is like a form of judgment. The top? Okay, interesting. Interesting.
I wanted to be at the top. Maybe we should talk about that in the power portion, because I have a very interesting relationship with power and how we think about it in the workplace. But when I talk about early career, I also really had that like grind mentality early in my career. And the show also almost, it doesn't glamorize it. I actually think it shows us the really dark side of the grind culture. And so like in the first season, they're all recent college graduates. And I feel like one of the first things I learned as a recent college graduate in the workplace was like, make sure everyone knows you're working really, really hard and that they see you working really, really hard, because that's important. That visibility is so important. But as I was like looking back on that and thinking about that, what do you think that reveals about how early career workers are socialized into dysfunction? And I think it's interesting because I think the answer now is different than when I was entered the workplace.
Let's unpack that a bit in a couple minutes. Again, industry is not reflective of the overwhelming majority of companies or industries themselves, but it is a mirror for us to look at and reflect upon what we've experienced, what we've seen. So I think what industry is saying about early career employees is that there is a level of structural dysfunction inside of an organization.
Oh, yeah.
And when we talk about workplace culture, there are all of the formal aspects of culture, and then there are the informal aspects of culture. And inside of the informal aspects of culture, there could be structural dysfunction like what you see in industry. And one of the best examples to me of this is Yasmin's hazing in season 1. So she gets hazed as a new employee, as a woman, as an objectively attractive woman. She gets hazed in many different ways on the show. And in season 2, she tries to haze a new employee in the same way that she was hazed, and is quite frankly is unable to haze her. 1, because the new employee does not allow it, and then 2, because the new employee doesn't allow it, the executives and her line managers don't allow it either. And so I think this is really a really interesting examination of structural dysfunction and enablers and enablement and acceptance and assimilation into company culture. There are all these drivers that impact how you think about your role in a company. And in later seasons, it is revealed that Yasmin has self-confidence and self-esteem issue. And I think that's also reflected in how willing she was to be, not that she wanted to be hazed, by how accepting she was of that as standard compared to Venetia in season 2.
Yeah.
And so, it is not just hazing as part of the culture. It is also her then seeking to emulate that behavior of the people in higher stations in later seasons. And so to me, it says that informal culture can have a level of structural dysfunction, which I think is very representative by her experience. And then second, there are real pipelines that are represented on industry, from a particular school or particular business school to investment banking that exist in management consulting, investment banking, advertising and design, venture-backed startups, law firms. These are real. These pipelines are real, where people are indoctrinated in college and then assimilated into an organization in their early career. And then they adopt all of those behaviors and kind of the institutional and historical references and knowledge of those particular industries. And then they continue to pass them forward. Right. And so that to me is also very revealing about the show, that it underscores this pipeline example. And I don't know exactly what it's saying, if that pipeline is good, bad, indifferent, but it is material, and it's how the institutions preserve that culture.
Yeah. I thought the Venetia not wanting to be hazed, like when she was like, oh, but I don't have to do that. It's like in the second season, Yasmin's like, oh, the new grad gets everyone lunch. And she's like, no, I don't have to do that. I thought it was such an interesting commentary on the changing ideals across generations. like Yasmin kind of reads, like, we don't know what timeline they're in. I think, well, we do because they have a COVID season, but Yasmin.
Yasmin, Harper, Robert, they're pre-COVID.
Yes.
And Venetia is post-COVID.
Yes.
Right? So you could just draw that line. Let's just say they're early Gen Z or later millennial.
Yeah.
And then Venetia is firmly Gen Z to late Gen Z.
Yeah. And it was just so clear. She shut her down so brilliantly. And I was like, oh, this is like a clear, because like when I started at work, Dave, it was just like, suck it up. Suck it up was the theme. Like every single manager piece of advice they gave me, like, oh, work hard and suck it up. If you see something you don't like, too bad, just like keep working and you'll get through it. I was not hazed at any of my jobs, thank God. And I have a ton of empathy for people who are, because that's like really unfair and a personal structural issue. Thankfully, I never worked anywhere where that was a situation that happened, but I do have friends who have worked in sales orgs at other companies where hazing is like a very prominent thing, to the point where like
it's called onboarding.
Oh God, no, to the point where like one of my friends had to call me and be like, my entire team got fired because a manager decided to like do something with the team, and I just happened to not be there because I was having a conversation with someone else, but everyone else got fired. And I was like, wow, like maybe you shouldn't haze people because that's what ends up happening. But I thought it was just like such an interesting commentary, because I felt like Yasmin in that moment. I was like, oh my God, ew, ick, I'm her. Like I would have gotten the lunches early in my career. I wouldn't have said anything. I don't think I would have hazed the next people, but I think I would have been like, well, I did it. Like, don't you have to do it too? And I think that discomfort with Gen Z and millennials has been really, that watching that friction play out between generations in the workplace has been fascinating, because I do think that a lot of elder millennials, like we're starting to get to the, the leadership level, the C-suite, the VP, SVP level. And we're watching Gen Z come in and be like, whoa, I'm not doing that. Whoa, I'm not glamorizing overwork. Whoa, I'm not trying to be burnt out. And at first, it was the same thing that happened to millennials when we came into the workplace and they were like, your avocado toast is why you won't own a house. It was like, Gen Z, no one wants to work anymore. And I'm like, no, they just don't want to work in the conditions we worked in, which were probably unfair conditions, to be clear. We just put up with it because that's what we were taught and conditioned to believe. So I loved that the show brought in a character, or like even, I don't know if they were even thinking about it to this level, but it was like so clear the generational commentary they were trying to have about how different generations in the workplace actually do change and shape what the work feels like.
I think it was absolutely intentional.
They're so good. They're so good. It is. It definitely is.
Yeah. Respect the hustle and the humility. And if you're listening to this pod thinking, I wouldn't have gotten the lunches, how many times have you gotten a coffee for a superior?
So many times. Or offered to take the notes in the meeting. I have taken so many notes.
I'll take those notes. Don't worry.
I'll take those.
Don't worry.
I'll send everyone the follow-up actions.
Kathleen, I'll take those notes. Don't worry. So, one, respect the hustle and the humility. I think it was absolutely intentional in demonstrating that. It's also, again, of the zeitgeist, right? Mm-hmm. Every year that the show is coming out, they're changing and they're adapting and they're molding to what is happening in the workplace. And they're accentuating those things to, again, put up a mirror to workplace culture.
Yeah, honestly, I would just love to be the like workplace person they consult. They don't need me because they're doing such a good job at it already. But I would love to be someone they call and they're like, is this really happening at workplaces? They know, because they're everything they show, Dave. I'm just like, some of it's a little bit wild and scandalized, but I truly am not surprised by any storylines anymore. Like we've all heard of it happening. People sleeping with people at work, people do like all the things. I'm not surprised, but the way they position some of their stuff does give like really good shock factor. And it really makes me think like, is this behavior still relevant and prevalent in certain organizations today? And I think the answer is yes.
I've not seen anything on industry that has surprised me.
Yeah, exactly.
Let me put it that way.
And I love when people, influencers are like, oh my God, I can't believe they let that character say that. And I was like, you can't believe they let the character say that? That's exactly what that character would say. Like watching the executive politicking in season 2 as well. Fascinating. Like how far would you go to throw your mentor under the bus? I think is just like I keep thinking that every episode. I'm like, how far can this character go? And the answer is they will go as far as they need to go for their own best self-interest. And I think we'll talk about that in a few minutes. But before I get there, I want to ask, okay, so the bank that they all work is called Pierpoint. It undergoes a merger and gets a different name eventually, but it's called Pierpoint. And they really sell this prestige of working there, this like Cambridge to Pierpoint pipeline, right? Didn't they go to Cambridge or was it Oxford? I'm very confused about how their colleges work.
I'm not British, but I think it's Oxford.
Okay, maybe it is Oxford. They kept talking about like colleges and houses, and I was like, what's happening here? I don't know. Feels like Harry Potter. Pierpoint sells prestige. Like everyone who's there is like, oh, you've made it. They have something called RIF Day, where they only accept a certain amount of new hires, and then they RIF, reduction in force, everyone else. But they sell definitely that prestige and not stability. They're not saying you're going to be there for a long time. They're very much like, if you get to work here, you get the prestige of working here. This is not the most stable job ever, as evident by all the people we see come and go over the years. How real is that trade-off in modern workplaces, status in exchange for safety?
I think it is both less real than the show represents, but also more real than you can imagine. There's an earnestness to Pierpoint that doesn't necessarily exist in other companies, where if you produce, you stay. There's a embedded structure to accountability and performance management, and are you making money, and that equals safety. There's a level of transparency that just doesn't exist in every company, like period.
Definitely.
So there is a level of earnestness, but I do think it's reflective and emblematic of different phases and different industries and different sectors at different points in time. And so it is certainly reflective of like the 2010 startup boom.
Oh, where,
and this is part of the thing you mentioned, where, you know, we are indoctrinated to come in and hustle, and the millennials kind of created this work environment where it's okay to do all of the things. And in that time period, a lot of us traded stability or safety in exchange for status. And what logo am I getting on my resume, or what logo am I putting on my LinkedIn? Can I say I worked for this startup at this time? And if you think about your career from a rational decision-making process, 77% of Series B startups fail. So is it rational to invest your time, energy, and livelihood into a company that is more than likely going to fail? It's not rational. There is certainly risk-based upside, but you are in fact trading that safety and that stability for the status of working at a startup. And there was very much a cultural cultural tension that existed in the 2010s if you worked at a legacy institution versus working at a startup. And I had done both. I know you had done both.
Yep.
And so there was this judgment from your community of peers. Oh, you work at that company? That's like an old company. Do you wear a tie to work? And so, you know, that certainly existed in the 2010s. I think if you look back at different points in time in the 80s or the 90s, it happened in different industries, whether those were in banking or financial services in the late 80s. And so I think it is very reflective that in every generation there is some trade-off between stability and safety and status. I think industry is a very transparent form of it, rather than what we tend to see at work, which is an opaque performance management process and an opaque accountability process, and you don't actually know where you stand or whether or not you're eligible to be included in a reduction in force. So respect to Pierpoint.
Yeah.
Most HR tools give you dashboards full of data. but not a lot of direction. Quantum Workplace helps HR and people leaders connect the dots between engagement, performance, and development, so insights don't live in silos and decisions aren't made in the dark. The outcome? More confident leaders, stronger connections, and high-performing teams that support real business results, not just reports that sit untouched. If you're ready to move from collecting data to leading with it, check out Quantum Workplace at quantumworkplace.com.
Remember, what was that company that everyone was talking about in the early 2010s where they power ranked everyone at the company and then shared the spreadsheet internally? Wasn't it like a management consulting company? I can't remember its name, but that was a huge, I remember in like 2011 when we were working on performance management stuff, like the company I worked for would rank every single person in the company, and the spreadsheet was accessible to every single manager. So everyone knew where their team ranked, top 10, top 3, top 5, like, and let me tell you, it worked. It worked as a former basketball player, competitive youngest child of 4, competing for everything. We are not allowed to play Monopoly in my family anymore because we had such a heated debate about Monopoly one time as a family. Like, I very carefully play board games with my sister because I just know at one point I'm going to be a little sister and snap at her because I want to win so badly, right? It worked for me. I was like, oh, this is like so clear who is performing and who isn't. And there was another company that did it at the time. Oh my God, I can't remember the name. It was a management consulting company. And they found a ton of success with just telling everybody where they stood in terms of performance. And I mean, they had very clear and measurable performance metrics, which I think like why I like how clear they are about like you perform or you're out in industries, like they can measure it.
I think you're talking about Bridgewater.
Yes, that one. Are they management consulting or did I make that up? I might have made that up.
They're not management consulting.
Okay.
I think they're a hedge fund, but not my expertise. But they have become relatively well known for their transparent corporate culture. And so this is Ray Dalio's company. He's written many, many books. You can find their corporate culture published, but very much so they have this transparent culture where every meeting is recorded. You can give each other feedback after every meeting. Again, the stack ranking that you're referring to and the performance management is part of and ingrained in their culture as a daily activity. So you could Google it and look it up, but it's pretty well publicized.
I feel like we need to do a whole episode on that. I need to pull up their corporate culture and we can cover it and see like pros, cons. Because I do think like we were talking about the trade-offs between prestige and not stability, but the other piece of it is like so many people complain in the workplace about expectations not being clear, not knowing how to be a top performer. But then when we would pitch them on, well, what if we did stack ranking and everybody got to publicly see your ranking and then you could know where you stand? Do you think the average employee would be like, yeah, that sounds good? Or do you think they'd be like, nah, no. I want the unclear expectations actually?
No, they would prefer that it is not broadcast. In the same way that when you ask folks if they want transparent compensation, they say, oh, I don't know if I want everybody to know how much I'm getting paid.
Yeah.
And so I think the answer to that is no. And it's more of a fear of them becoming underperformers and then that shame that's associated with it rather than actually being an underperformer. Yeah.
I might debate this with my CEO later. Maybe I'll have him on the pod and be like, let's debate this as CEO, CPO. Because I think it's really fascinating for me. Like now I think back to that first job and I just like waited for the weekly ratings to come out every week. And I like knew how to talk to my team because I knew what we were doing well in the weekly ratings and like where we had to improve. And it was probably very unhealthy. But I like when there are clear metrics and tangible goals that I can achieve. Sometimes when things are like too squishy, too gray area, too not measurable, I struggle with them. And like in HR, a lot of our stuff isn't directly measurable. So it's just like an interesting thing. Like I didn't start my career in HR. Remember, this is like a whole different company. I didn't even pivot into HR until 5 years into my career. So it's just interesting to think about. Something we have to talk about, because I think about this so often, is power. And who has it in industry, and how does that mirror to real corporate power dynamics?
So I think this is where we talk about Eric, Kenny, and Rishi.
Rishi, my favorite character.
Rishi, your favorite character. So I think industry does a really good job of representing formal authority and informal authority and influence.
Okay.
And Eric and Kenny in the show, season 1, season 2, they have formal authority. They are line managers. Eric is a second level manager. And they use that authority to make the early career employees do what they want them to do, influence them in different ways.
Yeah.
Rishi is at the same level as Eric, but nobody is his direct report. And so he is more influencing the culture and influencing what's happening through his attitude, his words, how he gets praised, I think is really interesting as a representation of power.
Yeah.
Rishi is constantly praised as a moneymaker. And these folks all have some version of power in their fiefdom. and they get very comfortable and are reminded regularly that they have no power. So they express this power to early career employees, to their direct reports, to the people that are around them. They drive these expressions of power, but are continually reminded that they actually have no power in the organization. And it happens to Eric when he is fired, when he is promoted, when he becomes partner, and ultimately when he gets his severance package, right? It happens to Eric so many times where it is revealed you don't actually have the power that you think you have, because the institution is the power center, right? The institution itself is a living organism, and that has the power. And so I think Eric is a very good example, because he ends up realizing over the course of many seasons that he does not have power. And even as recently as season 3, he's still trying to get that power. And still trying to accumulate that power, and throws his very good friend under the bus to get that power. And so I think Eric is a great example of this. So as far as reflecting real corporate dynamics, institutions they preserve the problems they were designed to solve, right? And so in effect, a manager, a leader, a team leader, a VP, a senior vice president, they very much have risen to their status and are in a position where they want to preserve that status. They want to expand their scope. They want to expand their impact. They want to grow their team. They want to show and demonstrate that they are valuable. And we'll talk about this later, but the difference between I create value and I am valuable, right? Like as a message inside of industry, they want to continually display and demonstrate that I am valuable. Not only do I create value, I am valuable. And that leads them to exhibit and engage in behavior that is preservationist, protectivist. It is not necessarily working in the best interest of the organization or their team. And I think Eric, shows that 100%. I think Kenny shows how power corrupts and how you can put your trust into different people and how ultimately power can be used against you unexpectedly, even when you are trying to do the right thing, because later in mid seasons, Kenny is trying to, what is the word? Recompense and penance for his previous sins.
Yeah.
And then Rishi, I think every person listening to this podcast, if you have a sales organization, there is a Rishi-like person on the team where they are so integral because of the money they make the company, they are given leeway and rope that other employees would not be given. Mm-hmm. And Rishi ultimately does become a victim of his own behavior, ambition, insecurity, and uncontrollable, unbridled ambition. And I think Rishi's a good example about how power can informally accrue, mm-hmm. and then how quickly it can be as quickly it dissipate. Exactly. And so I think those three characters really underscore what power is and is not. And it says to us that when we're working inside of an organization, you know, if you start to put yourself first, the organization will respond.
Oh, I have so much to unpack for that answer. We all know Rishi's my favorite character, not because he's a terrible, toxic person. He just sometimes says things that are so effing absurd that, like, you can't help but be like, my God, this character is a guy I know in every single sales organization I've ever worked at. Not my current one, though. We don't have any Rishis at work week. But I've definitely worked within sales organizations where Rishi was a dime a dozen. And he learns really fast. Like, one of my favorite storylines of all 4 seasons. I mean, we're just now in season 4, but one of my favorite storylines happens in season 2 or 3. It might be 3, Dave. You might have to remind me. Where HR gets called in because somebody
season 3.
God, was it the Rishi downfall episode? There's an amazing episode where Rishi is the main focal point of the episode, and it takes you on so many highs and so many lows and makes you feel like you're running a marathon at the same time you're going to die. Like, it's such an interesting episode, probably one of the best episodes of TV I've ever seen. We've heard me rant about this episode so many times. But he gets called in by HR because on the Peerpoint subreddit, people are quoting the things he is saying, right? So they call him in because they know it sounds like him. They have no evidence that it's him, but they think it sounds like him. And he is so rude to the HR team. Like, he just acts like he treats them like everybody else, like no sense of respect. You find out later on in the episode, I don't want to spoil this, but I think it might be worth telling them, like, it was the subreddit. It wasn't even quoting real things that he was saying, just things that sound like the things he would say. And it was from a female employee, the same employee who refused to be hazed, who started the rumor on subreddit so that the HR team would see it and Rishi would get his comeuppance. Is that the right word? Is that a word?
Comeuppance.
That one. But it's my favorite moment in the entire series because he just did not give a fuck what the HR team was telling him. Like, he talked down to them. And I was like, whoa. But also, they're bringing him in for an investigation that isn't directly tied to him, but they think sounds like him. So they are well aware that he is the issue. And they still never do anything. So I think that too is kind of
because they have allowed his behavior to proliferate
for so long
because he is a top performer.
I hate this narrative. I used to work with a CEO who's like, we have no assholes here. And every time he would say it, I would get so mad because I was like, I can name 3 assholes. One of them just made 3 employees cry this week. Like, I can name them. And it does get hard if you've ever had this conversation with an executive leader about needing to terminate a top performer who is a jerk to everyone else. It is one of the hardest battles to win. I have been historically unsuccessful at it because the pushback I get is, but they are a top performer, so they have to stay here. And it's only until enough people complain and enough documentation has been documented that potentially HR is able to do something. And I like that being a focal point in the show. I'm like, oh my God, this is too real. It's like they asked an HR person.
As real as it gets.
Yeah.
I would like to know we're way over. We're like halfway through the.
Oh my God, are we? We're going. We're doing great. Okay, do you still have time? I can wrap this up in like 12 minutes. Do you still have time?
Yeah, do
you have time?
I'm good. I'm just. We might have to do a part 2.
We're going. I will probably ask the race and class question, maybe burnout, and maybe the one about the managers, and then we can wrap up. We'll go faster. We're doing great. Sorry, Tyler. We might have to edit this interview.
No, I mean this is my favorite pod we've done so far.
It's so good because I'm like, oh my God, I love this show so much.
We're just talking about TV.
Well, they do such a good job in this show of making it. That's probably why I can't look away, Dave. Like they could make 1,000,000 seasons of this TV show and I would be sad for every single season. Every single season, I'd be like, more. The day they cancel this show and don't renew it, I will be near tears because it is such an interesting commentary on people. And that like brings me to my next point. Like race, class, and gender aren't really subtle in the show. What do you think the show gets right about how meritocracy actually works?
I think it's interesting if we look at class and gender through the lens of Harper and Gus,
who are Black,
because they're the two Black characters, Black main cast characters in season 1 and season 2, and I think their experience is just very different, and it's a result of Harper being a woman, Gus being of a higher class and British. Harper's American, and Gus being of a higher class in Britain, and also having gone to Oxford, where Harper went to Binghamton.
Yeah.
And so it's just a very different, between the two of them, there's just very different class structure. And so their experience is very illuminating because Gus is given opportunity after opportunity after opportunity because of his class. And he is able to express himself in ways that other characters who are not of that class would have been reprimanded, whether that's Robert or Harper or somebody else. Gus comes out of his face at managing directors, at supervisors, at HR throughout season 1 in almost every scene. And that's not to say that he is not right. Like there are many situations where he is right and has the moral standing in the argument. However, from a workplace politics standpoint, he is acting so inappropriately compared to his lower class counterparts. And that is not a way that Harper could act because she is of a lower class and she's a woman. If Harper was acting like Gus, she would have been fired.
Absolutely.
Way before she ultimately was terminated by Pierpoint for cause. She would have been fired long before that if she was acting like Gus. And so I think putting them both on equal footing as the two main cast Black characters, you can really see how class and gender are highlighted in the show, because Harper cannot act like Gus. Harper is put in similar situations. Harper also has to find her way and make it in a way that Gus doesn't. Gus ultimately gets a job from one of Harper's clients because of who his family was. And so, this is, it's very representative. Again, I'm not British, so I cannot tell you how reflective it is of the British class system, but think about people you've seen who went to a state school versus Harvard and how they're treated inside of your workplace, or somebody who is recruited in because of a specific program. Let's say your company has a manager and training program, how that person who's recruited in from the manager and training program is treated versus you who start out as a frontline worker, right?
Oh, yeah.
Like you're just treated very differently. And I think the class aspects are underscored by those two characters. They also, despite Gus being given opportunities, he is also treated as a Black man very poorly, right? And so, there's also that aspect of it as well. And I think what industry says about race is that no matter how hard you try, no matter how well you assimilate, no matter how well you leverage it to your advantage, you are always who you are. And Harper is faced with this time and time again. In the most recent episode, she is explicitly told that she was put into her position because she was a Black woman and that woke is over. And, her position is being eliminated. There are other characters who are placed in positions of power because Peerpoint wants to look like it is a progressive organization at different points in time. And so it is always a factor. And I can tell you for me personally, I once had a really fantastic mentor. Like, I loved this person to death. I would do anything for them. And they would coach me and they would tell me, not only are you highly capable, not only are you incredibly personal, not only are you smart or whatever, all the way down here, number 67, you're diverse. And that is how I was, if I could leverage that appropriately, I could get ahead in corporate America. Like, number 1, 2, and 3, you're like capable, you're this, you're that, but all the way down here, number 67, your last name is Garcia. And so, that is represented in industry very well. And so those things really stand out to me. The other thing that stands out to me from a gender perspective, and I think I may have said this on a different pod, but there is no equivalent in the workplace for he's a good guy for women. And I think that is represented on this show really well, that women are working extra hard to get ahead. And then lastly, with regards to class, this is something that I think is, again, maybe an American idea, but also I may be reading it as a positive as an American. But the relationship between Robert and Nicole originally develops because Nicole recognizes that Robert is of her class and trying to get ahead, and she helps pick him up. And, other things happen that are amoral, but inappropriate, but she helps pick him up because initially she realizes because of his accent that they're from the same class in the same neighborhood. And so she starts to help him. And I've seen that in the workplace many, many times where I'm a kid from the Bronx. I'm going to help another kid from the Bronx. Yeah. We're going to figure it out. Right. And so that to me is actually a very fair representation of what happens with regards to class. You will see people help pick you up if they've made it.
Yeah. It's so interesting because there's this person on LinkedIn who shall not be named. I don't love his content. And one of it was about how meritocracy is real and it works. And that is everyone needs to believe in it. And I was just like, this is a load of bullshit. Anybody from any underrepresented group realizes that a lot of times you can work just as hard as some other counterparts and not get any further. And I feel like industry does a really good job of those elements of race, class, gender, and making it clear that that myth of a meritocracy potentially is not as real as people would like us to believe. We know it, right? Am I missing?
Number 67.
You're Nasso's Garcia. I mean, I have a lot of issues with anybody who says the meritocracy is real because firsthand, I'm sure people who are listening to this podcast have experienced doing as much work as a male counterpart and them getting the promotion and not you. And you're right. There's the good guy theory. There is no great woman theory. What? She's nice.
She's a good gal. She's nice. And it doesn't exist. There's no proxy. There's no proxy. That is an endorsement proxy that does not exist for women, right? I can get any man an introduction by telling another person he's a good guy. I cannot do that for a woman. There's no shorthand that I can use to immediately give them an endorsement for an introduction, a meeting, whatever.
Yeah. Maybe we should come up with one. Just kidding. It is, I don't know. It's just the show comes back to these ideas and really pushes them in your face sometimes, but other times it's so subtle. The Robert and Nicole example of them being from the same class simply from their accents. I also think us as Americans, we miss a lot of this because yes, we have Southern accents and Northern accents and Midwestern accents, but in the UK system, from my British friends, they have told me you can ascertain from someone's accent what class level they're at. And I'm that to me is wild. That's not something we think in America. We don't think oh, Southern accent, they must be so rich or not rich,
They do this on our other favorite show, Love is Blind, where, I'll call them the corporate workers are singled out because they use corporate speak like you and I. And then, the normal people who work a retail job or a construction job or they work in a small office, they're like, oh, those are the corporate people. But, it is much more evident and historical in Britain. Yeah.
We need to get a British person on this to talk us through this too, because I feel like that would just be such an interesting episode of like, how does this manifest a little bit differently in different countries?
I've watched too many YouTube videos that I'd care to describe around the differences in British accents, and I can't tell the difference. Yeah, I can't tell.
Well, because we didn't spend our whole life trying to figure out if somebody was other or not. Like, that's just like not something we did. The characters on the show, a lot of them confuse ambition with self-worth. What do you think the show is criticizing about hustle culture or documenting about hustle culture?
I think it's documenting, and I think it's documenting how much of our identities are wrapped up in work and productivity.
So much. Yeah.
And this is something we've also talked about on previous pods, where we know many people who have reached some apex, some predefined, you've now made it milestone, and they just feel so unfulfilled.
Yep.
And they've been told that this is what success looks like. They've been told that when they get to this level of income, this job title, this level of authority or position, that is success, or that is reputable, or it is a status unlock. And ultimately it is unfulfilling. And so we absolutely wrap up our self-worth in work and identity.
Yeah.
And ambition. Remember I said early in your career, ambition is unbridled?
Yeah.
Ambition can lead you to great success or tragic failure. And the best way I can explain it is, have you seen Inside Out, the Pixar movie?
No, I don't watch animated movies. Fun fact. I don't like them. Other than Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse.
I will just give you a quick once over. In Inside Out is a movie about your feelings and emotions, and each emotion lives inside of you, and they can push buttons at different points in time. So anger, sadness, joy, they push buttons when you are feeling those emotions, but also when they want you to feel those emotions. Anyway, in the second one, anxiety becomes an emotion as you go into puberty, and then anxiety takes over. Ambition is not an emotion, but it also has a button that it can push inside of you. And it can push you and it can drive you, but when it's unbridled, it can take you down really scary pathways. And unbridled ambition is what leads you to unethical behavior. It's what leads you to working with a lack of integrity. It is what leads you to the gray area. Whereas bridled ambition and ambition plus focus is a much more productive form of ambition.
Yeah.
And that to me is what industry really captures well. That there is a downside to unbridled ambition. And if you form your identity around your work and your ambition, and that's how you define your self-worth, you can end up down a really bad path.
Yeah. I mean, we see some people make some decisions with that ambition lens, and the decisions are so catastrophic that I'm like, how do these people live with themselves? Like exactly what you said. Like it is so some of their ambitions are so intense that they're willing to sacrifice parts of themselves that I don't think I could ever sacrifice. Like sometimes I watch industry and I'm like, I could never.
They're sacrificing parts of themselves. They're sacrificing their relationships with their families. They're sacrificing their futures, right? Like for the immediacy.
Yeah.
And that's real. That's all real. I've seen that every single way you could imagine over the last 20 years.
I know, but it's just like sometimes I'm like, I would have so much fun if like I was on industry, like if I was a character, and I was like, I would not actually have fun. I would have already been fired or quit. I
You
wouldn't have
you
made
you
it.
wouldn't you wouldn't have fun. Industry is Succession meets Euphoria meets Scandal. Like
Yeah.
you would not have a good time.
I would be the HR person trying to fire all the bad people, and they wouldn't let me fire any of them. So they would be like, you gotta go. Like, we actually need you to go. You're the problem. You don't want to put up with this bad behavior. We do.
You'd be Daria in season 1.
Oh yeah, she did not want to buy in. That I thought that was really interesting too. She really had this like aspiration to like mentor people younger than her, take away the pressure that the skip line manager is putting on Harper. Like, weirdly enough, I thought everything she was doing was good, but somehow I was still so annoyed with her the whole time. And
I think also intentional.
because she was like the system rejected her because she wanted to not be evil.
Yeah, well, Harper's on a hero's journey, right? And you realize throughout the season and then subsequent seasons that Harper is in fact not a hero, but maybe an anti-hero, occasionally a villain. And it's the idea that the protagonist is also the antagonist, which is like the Breaking Bad kind of thing.
Yeah.
And so Harper's on a hero's journey, and you realize like Daria is one of the roadblocks in her hero's journey. And so you align with Harper, you feel like Daria is stopping her. And then you realize Daria was right all along. Eventually you realize she was right all along.
Something I think is really interesting is a lot of the people that Harper wrongs end up still having relationships with her after she wrongs them. So almost out of, I think, their survival, they have to have relationships with her. Daria Nock, she leaves and then we very rarely see her. But her and Eric have done awful things to each other and she still has a relationship with him. Her and Yasmin do awful things to one another and they still have a relationship with each other in the current season. She did probably the worst thing anyone could do to Rishi in season 3, and he still needs her in season 4. And I just...
You haven't seen this in real life? I've seen this in real life, where there is this person who is a superstar, right? Like an objective superstar. And there are people who have attached their coattails to that. Like they're riding their coattails. No matter what the person does to them, they accept it and they try to sustain the relationship because that person is on a rocket ship and they want to be along for the ride. I've seen that in real life.
I'm really trying to think if I have. I probably have seen it in real life. I just don't think I could be that person. I don't know if I would be.
You can't be that person.
I don't think I would be granted the same courtesy that, I don't know. Actually, Harper, they all end up forgiving her. It's wild. I'm like, she's so evil sometimes. Like, she's so good at what she does, but some of her actions, I'm like, how could anyone forgive you? They're so bad. To be fair, I'm not holding her to a higher standard than anyone else. Everyone on the show is bad. Everyone on the show is bad, Dave. Like, not one of them, I think, is a morally
there's
sound
no likable
person.
characters.
No.
There's no likable characters on the show. My wife doesn't watch the show because she doesn't think anybody's likable.
That's fair. I have a lot of friends who are like, I tried it and it just like was too hard for me to watch these people be awful to each other. And I was like, I actually think it's like what real life is like, but I'm still fascinated by it, you know? Like, I'm like, ooh, this is fascinating. Okay, I want to wrap up the episode talking a little bit about how the managers are reflected on the show. We touched on it earlier with Eric, but the managers on this show are unwell, would be the category I would put them in. Or maybe they're just continuing the cycle of mistreatment, honestly. What do you think the show reveals about leadership that most workplace conversations avoid? I want to hear about the dark side of it.
My favorite manager on the show is Yasmin's manager in season 1.
Oh, yeah. He just disappears.
He just disappears. He doesn't care. He doesn't do anything. He kind of lets them run amok. And he's very comfortable. He has gotten to this place in his career where he's comfortable. And I distinctly remember seeing a manager like this in one of the companies that I worked in. I would walk in, in the morning, and everybody is already working. It's like 8:30, 8:45 in the morning. Everybody is grinding. And by 10 a.m., this guy's still reading the morning paper, like at his desk, like hanging out, reading the morning paper. And, what I think it says is, I think it's an accurate representation that there are differences in managers, even inside of organizations like a peer point. And it is really the luck of the draw for you as a new employee, because capability and skill and thoughtfulness as a manager are not evenly distributed. And so the thing that it captures the best to me is that it is really the luck of the draw for an employee on who you work for. And again, this is something that we've talked about in the past, but most people quit their jobs because of a poor relationship with their manager. It is the most important relationship that you have professionally, and also potentially personally. And it underscores that it is the luck of the draw in many, many, many situations. And so I think if you go into a workplace with that understanding that you can't necessarily rely on your manager to have your best interest in mind, that is a good starting point for managing your own career. And that to me is the main message. Whether it's one of the managers who are too aggressive, one of the managers who are, or one of the managers who are not aggressive at all and quite frankly checked out. It is the luck of the draw, and you have to have your own career's best interest in mind, because you can't trust the luck of the draw to have it, in mind for you.
Yeah, I think the managers are just one of the realest parts of the show, honestly. And you're right. The right manager can skyrocket your career, and the wrong one can make your life a living hell. I've shared this stat so often on this podcast. Like, they did a study. I don't know how many people respond to the survey, but they found that your manager has more of an impact on your mental health than your partner has. And your partner is the person you're building a life with. You're with every day outside of work, but your manager can do more damage to your mental health. And I'm not surprised. Some of the things the managers do on this show, I'm just like, I've had to deal with the manager who's done that. I've had to, none of it to me at that point is surprising. I think it's one of the realest aspects of the show is that these managers are so bad. And you're right. The difference between also looking at Yasmin and Harper who has Eric, Yasmin who has this guy who doesn't care. He disappears halfway through a season. They don't even mention him. He just goes somewhere and he never shows. He comes back from COVID and just has a mask and gloves on and is staying away from everybody. It's honestly true chaos. But watching their careers, because they started at the same time, but Harper is seemingly way more successful and advancing way further than Yasmin is, either at the impulse of because of her manager, because of what's happening, lots of reasons why. But I think pairing those two against each other, Eric and Yasmin's manager, I don't even know Yasmin's manager's name. This man was such an afterthought in the whole thing.
I can't remember right now. I've been trying to remember since I said it, but whatever. It doesn't matter.
He disappeared. No one ever saw him again, which is
is it Hillary? I think it might be Hillary.
It might be Hillary. That was good. Yeah, I think
it might be Hillary.
In that to me I was these managers they're not great, but also it's clear they're trying to make a point about how much your manager impacts your life, your career progression, what you're willing to learn, situations you're in, dinners you get to go to, all that good stuff. I want to end with, if industry was required viewing for leaders. First of all, that'd be so inappropriate, but I'm going to ask this question anyways. What uncomfortable conversations do you think it would force them to have?
What is my role in the culture that exists in my company?
I feel like the average person wouldn't be able to have that conversation with themselves.
But it's the one that they would be forced to ask, right? What is my role in shaping the culture in my company?
Yeah.
Because you see it from Bill Adler and Eric, and on the client side, Jesse Bloom. You see it with Kit Harington's character, Henry Muck, in his company, and how while culture is very much a bottoms up experience, it is also a top down approval, right? I'm going to exhibit these behaviors and I'm going to say what is acceptable and what is not acceptable inside of my company. And so to me, the uncomfortable conversation at your force is a real examination of your role in shaping the culture in your organization.
Yeah. Honestly, I think a lot of, while there are really salacious parts to this show, again, it's an HBO show, so you're getting what an HBO show delivers a lot of the time. While there are salacious parts to it, I really think it makes you question, like, how am I showing up and what is the impact I can have? Because there are parts that at some point in this current season 4 with Harper, I started to ask myself, would she be behaving this way if Eric was not her manager? Was this always how she was meant to behave? Or did she really learn some of the worst traits from the people that she looked up to or was managed by? And when I had that thought, I also started to think about my direct report. And I was like, what are my bad behaviors? And is she doing them or not? Because I don't want her to be me. I want her to be better than me. But like, you have to have that self-awareness to know, am I teaching them the good behaviors, the bad behaviors?
In that same vein, I was thinking, I can't believe Harper has this many employees that she's about to ruin.
Yeah. She really, I cannot. This season is wild. Her energy is truly fascinating. The inappropriate relationships she has with the people she works with. I know I'm not silly enough, and I've worked places where inappropriate relationships have happened. I think all of us have a story about so-and-so managed so-and-so and dated so-and-so, or this SVP got divorced and married another SVP, whatever. I'm sure all of us have salacious workplace romance stories, but watching that piece come to life in season 4, where I'm like, why would you, as the leader, risk it? Why would you risk an inappropriate relationship? But maybe that's because I'm silly and I have ideals about work.
I think it's because you're silly and you have ideals about work.
I would never do it. You could never catch me risking my career. I mean, I think about the HR woman from the Coldplay story. I don't know if you and I ever talked about that. I talked about it with Sarah Reynolds on CEOs behaving badly. But the woman from the Coldplay story just did an interview. I love that I'm calling her the woman.
I read it in the New York Times.
And she potentially will never get another job in HR, because forever was associated with having this relationship with her CEO, despite her saying they didn't have a relationship. You should read the article if you have not. But I think I'm at the point in my life where I'm like, why would I sacrifice the thing I have worked so hard for by doing something I shouldn't be doing? And maybe I just have a stronger moral compass. maybe I'm too afraid of the outcomes,
So, it's not just that, right? Like Harper, in one season engages in insider trading, right? Which is
the most illegal thing you could do.
It's not, it happens very often, right? And so you could say she knows better. You could say that, there's no reason for it, whatever. But I think the show does it's a good representation of why somebody would do it, and how their unchecked ambition, their unchecked quest for power, their unchecked initiative can cause them to do something unethical. And when you're a leader in a position and you feel untouchable, and your power is unchecked, you will also engage in other behaviors, whether that's insider trading or inappropriate workplace relationships.
That. Maybe we have a whole nother episode on that too, because I like that piece of it is really interesting.
Should we do an end of season?
Yes, you should come
recap
back. By the time the season ends, I'll be in the next season of the podcast. So you could come back next season and we could do it. Dave, thanks for spending over an hour with me today talking about our favorite show. There's, just so much to learn from the art we're watching. Like, I do think industry is just so culturally relevant. Things are happening in season 4 that feel so real to what the world is like right now. I'm like, how did they know when they filmed this that this was going to be where we were at? But they have such a pulse point. So like, I highly encourage you, if you have HBO, if you can get access to it, to watch the show. Start with season 1. There are 8 episodes a season, I think. Very worth it. Also, they are not safe for work, so please don't watch with like small children around. It's probably the best thing I could say. But Dave, thank you for spending an hour with me today.
Thank you.
This has been great. Oh, for people, here's my recurring bit. For people who want to get in touch with you, how can they get in touch with you?
NYCDDG on all social channels.
Even
Smash
LinkedIn?
The like button.
Smash the like
Even
button.
LinkedIn. Smash the like button. Hit subscribe.
If you liked this very pop culture-esque themed episode where we dissect real things that are shows that are on right now through the lens of work, please let us know and we'll make this a recurring thing. Okay, bye. I don't know, Tyler.
Thanks for tuning in. Keep up with all the latest HR resources by subscribing on Apple, Spotify, Google, or wherever you listen. And if you love I Hate It Here, tell an HR friend. I'll see you next time.